Welcome to Dyspraxic Rosie Writes, a channel where we talk about dyspraxia, chronic illness, and the writing life. Today's video is part of a 5-part series I've been putting together. I will link in the description to the previous videos if you haven't had the opportunity to watch them. So for review, the 5 parts have been as follows: querying, dealing with rejection, working with publishers, today's video on author platform, and the 5th and final one will be on author money. To introduce you to the concept of a platform and what that looks like in the modern world, I will read to you a very short passage about author platform from this very, very helpful resource that I've been referencing in this series on traditional publishing called Write the Perfect Book Proposal, 10 that sold and why. The author of this section on building a platform from scratch says the following: no one likes the word platform. We started to hear it overused in the early part of the decade, and it has been the bane of the existence of writers ever since. Back then, digital marketing was in its infancy, so the focus was on traditional publicity. Authors need to show that they had an audience, and these numbers were typically derived from speaking engagements or radio and television appearances. Although these things are still important, the true advent of the internet has leveled the playing field. So what exactly is the author referring to here? The author is referring to how the concept of a platform has changed over time. An author platform is essentially about your readers. What do they read? What do they listen to? What events do they go to? And what typically attracts them to authors and public figures that have points of view that they admire and want to hear from. So here's another passage from that book on writing the perfect book proposal that I think will help you start to think about author platform in a truly strategic way. Online marketing is now all about relationships. You have to build trust with your potential reader before you can expect them to ever want to buy something of yours. Of course, this excludes those authors who have already established a following. They may not even need an online footprint. And if you're a celebrity, you may want to understand how this all works, but it is not a necessity. Traditional publicity still works, but the ideal is to use it in combination with other online techniques. As someone who has done some content marketing work myself, how I make sense of this passage is I see it as about prioritizing just a few key areas that make sense in the context of who your average reader is. For example, if you are aiming to write something that will be appealing to an audience of new parents, you might want to be reaching things like parenting blogs and parenting magazines and parenting podcasts, just to name one specific example. Although if you're looking for this in terms of what this looks like for you in particular, I would narrow this down to just a few key platforms and make them about where your readers hang out, but also balance that out with what few key platforms and strategies feel the most comfortable to you and like something you can show up for a minimum of once or twice a week for something like content creation, and multiple times a week if it's something like social media. So let me share with you exactly what sorts of strategies in terms of platform I've been using with this book right here, my book, Stumbling Through Space and Time. I have found, since the emphasis is on lived experience as a dyspraxic person, I have felt there have been a few key audiences to reach. It has been that of individuals new to navigating the lived experience. So that would be things like lifestyle magazines, podcasts, advocacy blogs, advocacy events around neurodiversity in particular. But it would also be people like the parents and families of those individuals, the educators, and people who work in professions like, for example, mental health professionals or social workers that may encounter dyspraxic individuals as their clients and coworkers. So what I have found enormously helpful is to not only prioritize a few key social media platforms, like I used to have a Twitter account, but since Elon has taken over, I have switched over to BlueSky. It's being on Instagram and showing people a more personal view of behind the scenes. It's showing up on platforms like this, like on YouTube. It's doing events with corporations looking to train their staff and workforce to work with dyspraxics better. And it's figuring out where the parenting bubble as well is in terms of moms, dads, aunts, uncles, siblings that tend to want to just do better at supporting their dyspraxic sibling. So I hope this got you started on thinking about your platform. The thing is, I can't offer very individualized advice because I don't know what the gist of your project is. But I do highly recommend, if you have questions about this topic, to pop your questions in the comment section below and perhaps share what sort of platform building strategies have worked for you. Hope you enjoyed this video. Happy reading, happy writing, my friends. And of course, if you found it very helpful, then like, subscribe, and share, and click that bell button.